Story of Prophet Dawud alayhi salam. Prophet Dawud, his story began with the story of Dawud or David alayhi salam in Goliath. Long after the time of Prophet Moses alayhi salam, the Israelites had become a miserly and domineering nation, oppressing other tribes. Over the years, they had become a people who behaved badly and were far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, to teach them humility and remind them to turn back to Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them a warning in the form of taslit, allowing one of the worst tyrants of the time, Goliath or Jalut, to oppress them as a sign of punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The children of Israel were weakened and defeated by constant warfare, and were repeatedly humiliated and defeated by their powerful enemies. Their trials continued for many years. Finally, they sought the advice of their prophet at that time, named Samuel alayhi salam, promising him that they would fight in the own way of Allah under the leadership of a king. DAWUD, a humble and kind farmer known principally for his piety, but also for his physical strength, knowledge, and wisdom, was chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be their king and lead the Israelite army. The people of Israel could not believe DAWUD had been chosen. Samuel asked the Israelites to flock to DAWUD's house. Arriving there, they found the ark, which has been lost a long time ago. They thought it was impossible, but the angel of Gabriel sent the ark to DAWUD's house. The ark was a chest containing relics of Prophet Moses alayhi salam, Prophet Harun alayhi salam, and the Torah. The ark was the most important thing for the children of Israel because they believed it brought blessing and peace. When the ark was seized by the Palestinians, they seemed to lose themselves because losing the ark meant that the prophethood and their descendants were cut off from their past. Almost none of them memorized the Torah. Because of the miraculous recovery of the ark, the children of Israel believed in Samuel's words and appointed DAWUD as king. After becoming king, DAWUD strategized and organized his force to fight the Palestinians by inviting young men to join the army. The invitation was announced to the city of Bethlehem, a small town and the birthplace of Prophet Dawud alayhi salam. Prophet Dawud alayhi salam was the son of Yisha bin Uwaid and was the youngest of 13 siblings. Prophet Dawud's childhood was very pleasant. As a cattle herder's son, he would always go with his father herding livestock in the green pasture while playing and running through the grass. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Prophet Dawud alayhi salam the advantage of being able to understand the language of animals. His elderly father chose 3 of his sons to join DAWUD's army and fight against Palestine. His father instructed his youngest son, Prophet Dawud, not to take part in the battle, but only to help the other soldier carry provision and help prepare food and drink because he was still too young to fight. Nevertheless, Prophet Dawud alayhi salam was eager to join and contribute his strength to the army of DAWUD. DAWUD's army only numbered about 33,000 people for the children of Israel, while Goliath's army numbered 250,000 strong and well-equipped troops. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to test the resolve of DAWUD's troop. While marching, they arrived at a river. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired DAWUD to order his men not to drink more than a handful of water from the river, even though they're very thirsty. Many disobeyed DAWUD's command and drank until they were full. Those that did soon fell ill. Only a few DAWUD's troops remained, but they were undaunted and set up for battle. When the 2 armies faced each other, Goliath challenged every soldier from King DAWUD's army to a one-on-one fight, as was the custom in those days. Goliath wanted to show off his power. The soldier cowered, and no one had enough courage to volunteer. The king offered his beautiful daughter in marriage to a man who dared to fight Goliath, but this tempting offer did not make Talut's soldier brave enough to come forward. It was then that a very young man stepped forward among the soldiers. The young man was Prophet Dawud salam, boldly saying, "I am ready to fight Goliath." Although Talut was very impressed with Dawud's courage, he initially refused on the ground that Goliath was not a realistic opponent for him. Prophet Dawud salam still insisted of fighting Goliath. The king asked his men to dress him for battle and give him a sword. But Prophet Dawud salam refused because he was not used to wearing armor and it hindered his movement. When Goliath saw the small and skinny young man he was going to fight, he burst out laughing. Prophet Dawud salam took a small stone and placed it in his sling. He swung his sling and aimed it at Goliath. The stone shot out with the speed of an arrow and struck Goliath hard on the face. Blood poured from his forehead. Goliath fell to the ground, lifeless, before he could even draw his sword. The Palestinian soldier was stunned to see what had happened. Once they realized that their leader had been killed, they immediately ran for their life. Talut and his soldier also couldn't believe what had happened. They had just won the war. The victory of Prophet Dawud salam and Talut's army against Goliath ended the suffering of the Israelites for many years. Everyone was overjoyed to welcome back the hero, Prophet Dawud salam. After a few years, Talut kept his promise and married his daughter, Michal, to Prophet Dawud and appointed him one of his main advisors. Prophet Dawud salam had become the most famous person in Israel. One day, Prophet Dawud salam went into seclusion and repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In his seclusion, Prophet Dawud recited prayers to glorify Allah. One night during Ramadan, Allah appointed Prophet Dawud salam as a prophet and revealed a psalm for Allah through the angel of Gabriel. The psalm contained a command for Prophet Dawud's people to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While preaching, Prophet Dawud salam served the king and the people of Bani Israel by helping the needy and training the royal soldier in battle skill. There were many wars in those days, and the Prophet was able to win every battle for the children of Israel. Talut began to be jealous of the Prophet. He hated the fact that people praised and loved Prophet Dawud more than him. Talut orchestrated a terrible plan by sending Prophet Dawud to fight against the people of Canaan, a battle that was almost impossible to win. Talut was sure that Prophet Dawud would lose the battle and be killed. After a fierce battle that lasted for days, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Israelites victory. Talut did not think that the Prophet could defeat such a large army. When he saw the Prophet being celebrated as a hero by the Israelites, his fear grew. Talut called one of his trusted soldiers and made plans to kill Prophet Dawud salam that very night. Michal heard of their plan. She ran to her husband and asked him to flee immediately. Prophet Dawud salam and Michal traveled for a long time until he found a cave on the top of the mountain and decided to rest. The Prophet stayed there for several days. Prophet Dawud's followers learned that he and his wife were hiding in a cave, and they came to see him. They asked permission to join Prophet Dawud because they could no longer stand the treatment of King Talut, who had become a tyrant. The next day, more followers arrived at the cave with the same request. They said, "Please let us join your army." The Prophet agreed. More and more came to join Prophet's army. The people were turning against King Talut. When the king realized that the Prophet was gathering an army, he decided to go to war. The army marched for many days, and they traveled very far. The king and his men were tired and decided to rest for some time in a valley. While King Talut was sleeping, the Prophet crept into his camp silently. He picked up his sword and cut off a piece of King Talut's cape, and then went outside and shouted, "Oh, King! King Talut got up and went out into the night air. He saw the Prophet standing with his people. Talut said, "Did you come here to kill me?" The Prophet replied, "No, because I do not hate you. If I want to kill you, then I could do it while you're sleeping." The Prophet showed him the piece of the king's cape. King Talut repented and apologized. Prophet Dawud a.s. forgave the king, and the Prophet was allowed to return to the kingdom. After a few years, Talut was killed in another battle. Everyone chose Prophet Dawud a.s. as the new king. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made his kingdom strong and great, and his enemy feared him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also honored him as a messenger and gave him a son, and he named him Sulaiman. He delivered Allah's message through the book of Psalms to his son and his people, and all who heard his melodious voice listened carefully. Although he was a king, Prophet Dawud a.s. did not live in luxury. He did not use money from the treasury for himself. He was experienced in the craft of making weapons, so he made a living from making and selling weapons. Prophet Dawud a.s. died at the age of 100 years. His death was mourned by 4,000 priests and countless people. On the day of his burial, the sun was very hot and the people who attended were having a hard time. It was then that Solomon called thousands of birds to provide shade from the sun. This was the first sign of special power from Prophet Sulaiman a.s.